And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Lisa Cambron, who is in heaven with God during her near-death experience, which we're going to learn about and more. Lisa, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Lisa, I believe you've actually had 2 NDEs, so let's start with your first one and go from there.
Okay. My first near-death experience, I was 11 years old, and I had went to Jacksonville, Florida for a visit with my sister. It all happened in the pool where my brother-in-law jokingly held me underwater, and he kept holding me underwater what seemed like forever. And I was I was partially not with us. Let's say. And as young, I was only 11, so it really, I didn't understand it all. I did know that I was leaving my body, and I felt the calm, and didn't see a whole lot, didn't experience a whole lot in that near death experience. Maybe because I was so young, maybe I've forgotten. But it, he let go of my head, and I came up out of water, and yeah, it was quite the experience. Now, the other near death experience was quite different. I remember it piece by piece.
Now, with this first NDE, did your life change at all?
Not as much as the second one. The second one, I believe, because I remember being there. Remember being there for some time, as far as my surroundings and the beauty and the peace, and knowing that I was in His presence. Him being the Almighty. And that one changed. Yes, I mean, you live every day, every moment, every second. You don't take anything for granted. um I'm not afraid to die, but you live life differently, and i'm I'm more happy and more grateful, let's say that, after having the second near death experience.
All right, well, let's move on to your second one.
Okay. It was about 94 1994, 95, um, in Huntsville, Alabama. I was going across Montesano Mountain, and I was going to visit a friend, and the rain was it was bad, and it got worse as I climbed the mountain, and in my car, and something told me this is not a good idea. Just turn around, or you can go another day. I remember the last thing I remember was turning into a medium, as if, you can turn around, go the opposite direction. And after that, next thing I knew, I had flipped my car upside down over a 10-foot embankment. Okay. And with that being said, I was, I was, it was peaceful. It's like I relived my whole life again. It was my family, my friends, uh, doing all of it was real fast. I mean, just like a book, yeah, fanning yourself with a book. It was just pages and pages, and that went on for some time. And then I knew I was in heaven. I knew, I knew. And at first, I'm like, "Wow, this can't be." But it was so peaceful, so beautiful. It's indescribably how much love you feel, and it's like He was there with open arms, and He welcomed me. And He said, "You're welcome to stay. You don't have to stay, but you're more than welcome to stay." And my thought was, "Wow, this is some kind of serenity, beautiful, peaceful, unimaginable, just breathtaking." And my thought was, "Well, wait a minute, I can't stay. My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, And it's like I wasn't speaking, he wasn't speaking, it was as if our minds were relating to each other, and the next thing I knew, I woke up in my car, which was upside down, and I heard voices. "You're okay. Just be still. We've called an ambulance. You've been in an accident." And I, disoriented, my car was upside down. The windshield had busted out, and I said, "No, I can crawl out." "No, no, no." They said, "Don't crawl out. They saw, some of them saw me fall across the embankment, but yeah, so I did. I ended up crawling out and skinning my elbow. Um, my face hit the windshield and my rear view mirror, and I still have a scar here. And yeah, it was black and blue on my face, but other than the bruises and the soreness and stitches in the elbow, um, I was back. It was it was quite the experience.
Well, what did heaven look like?
It was. I remember seeing like beautiful colors, like a rainbow. Quiet. I seen a lot of white, maybe the clouds. Um, but just, if you can think of anything that you love the most and are happy doing, just the most amazing feeling of love and protection. Um, yeah, it's really hard to describe, but um, it's a beautiful place, and I can tell you that there's no need to be afraid because it is a beautiful place.
Were you met by God as like an
I
energy being or Jesus?
I want to say, Jesus. Um, I'm not sure of the white robe or if it was just white, but I was at I felt like I was at his, down below him, as I was there.
You mentioned that he was with open arms. So do you feel like
Yes,
he hugged you?
well, no, not really. I just as you would see maybe a picture of him in his gown, maybe
Hmm.
with his arms held, and uh, but I don't remember seeing his face. I don't remember seeing his lips move. It's just, and I don't know how to explain, but I knew what he was saying
Hmm.
as far as, "You're welcome here, but you don't have to stay if you're not ready."
I'm assuming you had like a telepathic conversation.
Yes, yes. That's the best way to describe it.
Once you got back and after you recuperated, did you notice that you had any new abilities that you didn't have prior, like being psychic or something?
Well, um, I can sense things before they happen, and I could probably do that better if I studied on it, but I'm kind of afraid to. But yes, I do have this sense of knowing certain things that happen before they happen.
Has the memories of this experience faded over time?
No, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Can you compare the reality of that realm to this world?
Nope.
Would you say the other side is more dreamlike or more real than here?
Oh, in a way, both. Dreamlike is in the best vacation you've ever taken
Mhm.
and not wanting to leave. But as real as it was in part like a dream.
What inspires you about your experience?
Well, um, before I had it, you always think of sickness, wonder how you're going to die. Is it, what's the other side like? And, I'm a Christian and I always believe that there is a heaven, and now I know, and I look forward to it.
Did you become more religious after your experience?
I did. I can say that I did.
Have you told many of your friends and family about it? And if so, how did they react?
Yeah, I told some of my family members, not all of them. They were in shock. I mean, they look at you like, okay, but then when you describe it, it's like, wow. But yeah, um, it was pretty awesome. I can
Mm.
tell you. Um, After it happened, of course, I was sore from the accident, but and I had nightmares about the wreck itself. It was pretty traumatic. Um, my brother went to the where the car was taken, and he's like, "Wow, Lisa, I can't believe you're still here. I mean, that was a pretty bad wreck." And he said the guys at the wrecker service, they said there's no way that the person that came out of that car lived.
Mm.
And I was sore and everything, but I did have nightmares about the wreck. But yes, I'm closer now than I ever was. As far as I've always believed, but yeah, there's something to be said about heaven, and it's really hard to put into words, but I can tell you it's breathtaking.
If you had a friend that was grieving over the loss of a loved one, what kind of advice would you give?
Well, and I've had when I worked, I had customers that would talk about a loved one dying, and I would tell them, you know, they're the happy ones. They're in the happy place. I can assure you that. And some of them don't understand that. Some of them I've elaborated a little, but in 2020, I had I'm the youngest of five, so both of my sisters are older than myself. But I had my sister closest to my age suddenly died in 2020, and I had a really rough time with that.
Mm.
Um, I Yeah, it's hard to explain, but
Do you,
I can help other people. But
right. Even though you knew that she was somewhere amazing and she was most likely super happy, it was still difficult for you, huh?
it was because it was sudden and it was tragic. Yeah, and then we didn't see it coming. It was a heart attack,
Mm.
and yeah, she was my big sister. But it took me a long time to get over that. But yeah, now and it's funny because a couple of weeks before she passed, she would say, "Lisa, if you die before I die, how am I going to know you're still around me?" And I
Mm.
said, "Nikki, I love butterflies, and they land on me all the time. I could tell you the stories.
Wow,
I mean, yes, for more than 3 minutes at a time."
that's amazing.
Yes, it is. It is. It makes my day.
Did it take you a long time to process your own NDE?
It did. It did. It it did. Um, Maybe a week or two because, of course, I was home for a while recuperating. My whole face was swollen and black and blue, but um, yeah, and I even thought to myself, I didn't dream that. That was real. I mean, most people that have a wreck don't feel good when they have a wreck. I felt amazing during the time that I used the phrase crossed over.
Mhm.
It was, if I could go back, I would, and I would stay.
Mhm.
That's how amazing it was. It was just the feeling, the love, the peace, and the calm. It's like no other.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions.
Sure.
Are you open to that?
Sure.
What's the
That's
best way for them to contact you?
probably through my email, lisa.cambron at icloud.com.
So you had the accident and then all of a sudden you were in heaven. Did you travel through a tunnel or anything to get there?
The light and the colors, it did seem like the a tunnel, so to speak. But yes.
From being there, like while you were there, could you see this realm from there?
No. No. Um the 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 peaceful and the calm and the lovingness, I knew where I was. And I really didn't even remember sliding off the mountain in that rainy, windy, pouring down rain
Mhm.
evening. I Yeah.
You
Last I knew, I was turning in the median, and who knows what happened.
It sounds like you left your body before you experienced the crash.
It does. It does. It really does. Yeah, and you think, well, yeah. I mean, if I to make it out of the car, and the hood was smashed. I mean, the very roof of the car was smashed with just bruises and stitches in my elbow, nothing broken. Um, yeah, I mean, if I didn't come back, it makes you wonder what would have been the reason for my death. Concussion, maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah, yeah, I scratch my head on that one often because I really, I mean, it was a big drop as far as the car rolling over the hill, but to not be injured any more than I was, yeah, yeah,
Well, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
yes. There's no reason to be afraid of dying. If you're not a Christian, I highly suggest you getting to know him because it will be worth your while. Heaven is beautiful.
Lisa, thank you for your message and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.